Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, intuitive guide, and empowerment coach. And I started something in January where I was going to do a weekly 4-card spread, 3 different spreads, and give you as the viewer the opportunity to pick the spread that most you're drawn to intuitively. And then we had COVID hit and all sorts of other things went on the beginning of the year. So I just didn't get any traction. So I put out an intention that starting this week, I'm going to come in on Mondays and do a weekly reading, and you'll be able to pick the cards. So, or pick the spread. That's where I'm going. So I'm just going to jump in. What I'm going to do is I use 2 different decks. The first is Doreen Virtue's Messages from Your Angels. The second is The Legend of Avalon by Colette Baron Reed, and I marry them together. The first position represents the foundational position. It's where we're sitting. It's where the platform with which you're taking your first step. The second card represents the opportunity and or the obstacle. 1 coin, 2 sides. Every opportunity has an inherent obstacle, and every obstacle has an inherent opportunity. In the third position is the angel's advice for getting around the obstacle or taking advantage of the opportunity. And in the final position represents the probable outcome. So here I go. I'm going to start with card reading number 1. Oops. Give the cards a quick shuffle. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with my work, the face of the card does not always, what the words are don't always resonate with me. So I've built my own language with the cards. So our first angel for card reading number 1 is the angel Maya. The second is Daniel. The third is Akasha, and the final is Athena. Now I'm going to marry the Colette Baron Reed deck with this deck to get some further detail. Maya is being joined by the Fire Fairy. Daniel's being joined by the Stag. Akasha's being joined by the Trust card, and Athena's being joined by the Frog. For those that chose reading number 1, Maya offers education. She'll talk about education helping you with your personal growth, but for me, this has always been my energetic education. It is the dynamic with what my energetic education talks about, how I learn how my energy helps manifest. And right now it's time to have creative action and optimism about what it is that you are learning about how you show up and how that creates certain experiences. Because I have in the opportunity, the obstacle, I have Daniel, the angel of marriage, and then I have the Stag card. And Daniel will often talk about what is the story that you bring into a relationship, because that must be looked at before you're able to really move forward and give the new relationship or the new dynamic within the existing relationship fresh eyes. So the Stag in this particular case represents pride and leadership. And here I want to say pride in the way that you may have had many experiences that support your way of thinking, but now it's time to give birth to new ideas, which is what Maya is offering you. So as you start to focus in on relationships from a new perspective, more or less the sign or the idea of bless the broken road, like Rascal Flatts, whatever you've experienced in previous situations, if it didn't work out, it's because there was something bigger, and it was your job to claim that. Because in the angel's advice, I have the Trust card and I have Akasha. And Akasha is a spiritual teacher. So what we have is a spiritual teacher, and we have Maya, who is learning. So this is about learning about trust, and also about trust in a way where you can see where you staying with your story and not giving life to a new dynamic is creating a cul-de-sac for you. Because in the final position is Athena and the Frog. And the Frog represents the cleaning up of emotional baggage, being able to reconcile a situation. And Athena talks about lovingly asserting yourself. So for the people that picked card number 1, I'm going to go straight to your relationship body. I'm going to go to your intimate bodies because we're talking about marriage through Daniel. So if indeed you have not been in a marriage or a relationship, then it's time to rewrite the story and to start to pay attention to how the story you've been telling yourself, and I want to honor the idea that you've had experiences that support that story. But now it's about opening your heart instead of your eyes and rewriting the story. All right, I'm going to go on to reading number 2. All right, reading number 2. Our first angel is Daniel. The second is Rochelle. The third is Caressa. And the final is Archangel Michael. Daniel is being joined by the serpent. Rochelle is being joined by the mystery card. Caressa is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. And Archangel Michael's being joined by the fog. Well, okay, so here we have Daniel, the angel of marriage. Daniel represents an angel who is bringing you your life partner or is revitalizing a relationship that you're already in. Now, being week of January 13th, 2020, we have experienced in the last 6-7 weeks 3 different eclipses. And I bring that up because I study astrology and it has a great influence on us. And I feel like what I'm seeing for the people who picked reading number 2 is an opportunity to shed a skin, to garnish knowledge, and in doing so, having a healing, because Daniel, representing the angel of marriage, is talking about not just bringing you a partner, but how you're participating in the journey. If you have had many, many challenges in your love life, you may be very attached to the story that you've experienced, which is reasonable and makes sense. But in order to shift the story, you've got to start to tell another story. So in the opportunity of the obstacle, we have the mystery card, which is God's divine wisdom, giving us free will and free choice. And here is Rochelle saying, as you honor and follow the guidance of your heart, prosperity is coming to you. But prosperity for me is never about money. It's about feeling thriving, being excited, feeling confident in all the facets of my body in varying levels. But overall, it's a very faithful feeling. So this is your opportunity. It's also in many ways your obstacle, because if you've experienced many dings to the heart, you're going to tend to want to go there and say, but this is what happened to me. So what do the angels ask you to do? Is to have the courage to tell a new story so that they can open a new chapter for you. Caressa talks about you are at the end of a life cycle and a new chapter is starting and new happiness awaits you. But as you go through this transformation, the closing of one door and the opening of another, they are here to comfort and guide you. And as long as you can stay in your truth, Excalibur, this is the Lady of the Lake. Again, this deck is based on the legend of Avalon, the legend of Camelot, King Arthur, Guinevere, and this is the Lady of Lake coming through very tumultuous emotions. In order to speak her truth, there was a storm, but after the storm clears, you have an opportunity for a cleaning, for, again, we're seeing in 2 different ways, emotional reconciliation. It's not the release. I'm a human. When certain experiences happen to me, I can't just pretend they didn't. There are people that are very fortunate that can do that and just move on. But for those of us that cannot do that, Spirit has shown me I can make sense of a situation, and in doing so, put it in its proper place. And I think that's what Archangel Michael is asking the people who chose reading number 2 is to have the courage and to know that you're being protected as you put that emotional anchor, that emotional ball and chain in the closet or in the cupboard or in the garage, or given to the goodwill as it as you let it release it. So here we go. This is definitely about partnerships, and I want to say intimate partnerships, but that does not necessarily mean love relationships. When we have business relationships, when we have a partner in business, that is like a marriage, and it is an intimate relationship of trust and energy exchange. So as you're thinking about your relationships, you may say, my marriage is fine. My boyfriend and I are great. It may be other relationships that are intimate to you. So look at it that way. All right, let's go on to reading number 3. Oops. Give it a quick shuffle. All right. For those of you who picked reading number 3, our first angel is Azure. The second is Layla. The third is Chantal. And the final is Rosetta. All right. Joining Azure in the foundational position is the Eagle. Joining Layla in the opportunity or the obstacle is the Death card. Joining Chantal in the Angel's Advice is the Water Fairy. And joining Rosetta in the final position is the Fire Fairy. Azure says your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have faith and patience and don't try to force things. Force is resistant energy. It's a lack of trust. And here is the eagle. The eagle is the connection to the angelic realm. It represents spirit. It represents integrity. This, for those that picked number 3, I want to say that your desired outcome is not in your hands anymore. It's been passed over to spirit. And now as we go through these transformational times and this uncertainty, there is a very large possibility that those of you that picked number 3 are going to be able to recalibrate their lives in a way that is much more aligned to where you want to go, because here's the transformation card. And then again, here's, well, I shouldn't say again, but here's Layla. Layla talks about spending time in nature, talking about your desires and your wants with spirit, because this transformation is something that's been called for in the works for quite some time. I think that those of you that picked reading number 3 have been in some ways feeling a discontent, which has identified what you do want, because I think you want to love your life. I think that's what the transformation is. Chantal will talk about romance and the resurgence of a relationship, but in this position in the Angel's Advice, I feel that you want to enjoy your life more, that it isn't just about the lockdown and the challenges that we're having as a world community with everything that's going on, because it's not just the pandemic. There's protests, there's fires, there's all sorts of stuff. So my point is that Spirit is bringing us a new order, but before the new order can come, a certain amount of disruption must take place to break down the old order. So for those of you that picked number 3, focusing in on the outcome you want, focusing on how that feels, because the feeling of it will allow the manifestation to move more quickly, the more we can connect to it. Worry is a form of prayer that doesn't serve us. It puts our attention and intention in the very experience we don't want to have. So in the final outcome is Rosetta and the Fire Fairy. And I want to say that Rosetta represents parenting, teaching, and working with children. And then here is the Fire Fairy representing optimism and creative action. Many of you may be of childbearing years. You may want to start a family. Many of you may not be of childbearing years. And in that case, while Rosetta does represent teaching and parenting, I usually see it as the inner child, and being creative in nurturing the inner child and being optimistic on her or his behalf as you sit, not waiting, but faithfully intending for spirit to deliver what it is that you want to manifest. In many ways, because of this transformational year, the wants and desires that you have or have had before all of this took place may not be at the same priority. You may be recalibrating. And I feel like in doing so, there's no need to judge what came before, but allow for what is being birthed for today and moving forward. So that's what I have for this week. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, intuitive guide, and empowerment coach. And it is my intention moving forward to come each Monday morning here I'm in Pacific time and present with you 3 different spreads, 3 different readings. And you as the reader will choose the one that's most appropriate intuitively you're being guided to. And that will be the angel's advice for you for the following week. Thank you so much for joining me. Please like and subscribe and feel free to share the videos. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.